I created the business in the memory of my son. I mean, when you create a business, it is, whether you realize it or not, I mean, it's very much a living, breathing thing, entity, as they would say, as far as creating a corporation. But the reality is I had to create something for my brain to wrap around, for myself to have something to take care of, to foster, to nurture, to grow. So my why has been so strong that I have not even bothered to entertain quit. I do not know how to quit, and I think that principle has served me well. Now, as I said in another podcast interview, in 50 times that I have decided not to quit, 49 of them have been the right decision, and it has seen me through to the other side. And we are back with another episode of The Julius Files. I am your host, Jason Julius, and another guestless episode because in the midst of my morning workout, I found another subject that I wanted to talk about that's kind of personal to me, but I think that it's a bigger issue. It's the why in people's lives, whether it be your personal whys or your business whys. Your why is very important. And I mean, I wanted to talk about my personal why, but I wanted to go a little deeper into it about the importance of the why. I mean, and maybe some misnomers as time goes on. I don't know. We'll kind of have to see how that actually plays out. But the point being, you hear in business that your why has to be stronger than money. And I mean, there's a lot of truth in that actual statement itself. But I don't necessarily think that people go a little bit deeper into why your why needs to be stronger than just money. Because money does play a part in it. I think in your personal life, in your pursuit of your own personal desires and what responsibilities you decide you're going to take on in life. But the bigger thing is when it comes to business, like you are in business to pursue your entrepreneurial journey, which inevitably is about, yeah, I'm going to be honest, in my first 5 years, I mean, I had those delusions of grandeur of I was going to open 50 stores in 5 years. And I look back now and laugh about what a joke that was. Because at the time I was a entrepreneur. I mean, I was dreaming and doing, but I mean, I was still the last thing you would describe me as is seasoned. So I think now at 17 years, I've had a lot of time to reflect and become a little bit more seasoned in my entrepreneurial journey. But the bigger thing is I mean, you get to the why, and I read a lot as I was going into my entrepreneurial journey, and I saw that it was hard and that it took a lot of grit and a lot of fortitude in order to be able to see that journey through to success, which is going through a process that I think the process that you go through in anything, but specifically an entrepreneurial journey. And I mean, a lot of it does have to do with delayed gratification. I mean, maybe I'll circle back around on that. But the point being, when I was looking at pursuing my entrepreneurial journey, it was recently after the loss of my son. And one of the readings was that by some of the most successful people in the world had suffered a tragedy in their life, and then they went on to become very successful in business and entrepreneurship. That kind of got my brain thinking, because then we come back to my why, and that is that, like, my situation wasn't I'll build it and they will come. I mean, I built my business due to the loss of my son, because I felt like if I did not give my brain something to wrap around, that just bad things could happen in the grieving process. So I jumped with both feet into entrepreneurship. So my why has been that my business was created due to the loss of my son. And I've said that my business is the reincarnation of my son. I mean, maybe people will read into that what you will. I mean, to me, it was I was looking for healthy means of connecting and of understanding where a lot of my drive was and why I would get up every day and put one foot in front of the other. But the reality is, I created the business in the memory of my son. I mean, when you create a business, it is, whether you realize it or not, I mean, it's very much a living, breathing entity, as they would say, as far as creating a corporation. But the reality is I had to create something for my brain to wrap around, for myself to have something to take care of, to foster, to nurture, to grow, due to the losing my son and not being able to do all of the things with him to foster, nurture, and grow and raise him as a child. Now, the other side of that is that he was an identical twin, so his brother was still very much a responsibility for me. And when he passed, he left behind myself and his mother and a twin brother and a sister. So I still had responsibilities in general, but I mean, frankly, it wasn't enough. I was finding myself lost in the grief. So I opened up Coffee Junkies in 2005, and I opened up Coffee Junkies 6 months after the passing of my son, and I had to choose a color representing the logo, the brand, the business, and Connor's favorite color was red. So I chose red. So it became everything in the business. Anywhere that I see red, it represents my son. So then we get into the development of the business. And I mean, I'll be honest, I don't want to, because I mean, even after 17 years, I get a little bit emotional when I talk about this stuff. I felt like when we were going through the cancer treatment and all the chemotherapy with my son, that I was having to endure other people's decisions, and I didn't have any control of the situation. And I mean, maybe in times past I was a quote unquote a control freak. I'm not so much, but I am more comfortable when I'm in control. That I just told myself that had I had more control of the situation, the results might have been different. And honestly, I mean, you can read into that what you will. I don't care. I mean, that this is how I reconciled things in my brain. The point being, when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, you are fully in control. Ultimately, all of the decisions rest on your plate. The buck stops at you, and your decisions determine the future of the business that you create. So you tie all that together. Okay, well, my why is that the business represents my son. And I told myself that had I been in control of the situation with my son, that the results would have been different. So when I created Coffee Junkies, it was very much okay, time to put your money where your mouth is. You've created something that the decisions that you make, you have to endure the consequences of them, and pass or fail, you're going to be responsible for it. You're not enduring somebody else's decisions. So my why has been so strong that I have not even bothered to entertain quit. I do not know how to quit, and I think that principle has served me well. Now, as I said in another podcast interview, in 50 times that I have decided not to quit, 49 of them have been the right decision, and it has seen me through to the other side. And there has been that one time that, yeah, I probably should have quit. But that regardless, being right that not quitting was the right answer 49 out of 50 times, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad track record, because nobody's perfect. You're always going to make decisions that upon reflection you wish you would have made an actual different decision. But my point being, my why is stronger than money. And it has to be, because in entrepreneurship, in competition, you are literally competing with other people's minds. You're competing with other people's disciplines. You're competing with other people's motivations. You're competing with other people's whys. And quite frankly, money is a shallow why. So with all of the ways that you hear people say your why has to be stronger, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of insight in business as to why your why needs to be stronger. I mean, just like, I think at this point that I've expressed where my why comes from. So if you decide to compete against me and your why is just strictly monetarily motivated, well, when we start exchanging blows in competition, I promise you, I'm going to stand longer. And if you knock me down, I'm going to keep getting back up and coming harder because of my why. sooner or later, I'm going to knock you down, and you're going to decide that the money just isn't worth continuing to be knocked down. So you're going to stay down. I'm not going to stay down because my why is stronger than money. And that's what people are talking about, where everybody has their own why because everybody comes from different backgrounds and they've experienced different things and it's made them who they are. But if it's just about money, it's just not a strong enough why, because in business, in competition, you are always facing the next mountain to overcome. You're always facing the next opponent. You are always challenging yourself or being challenged. You're always facing the next adversary, the next problem. You're always facing the next feat that you have to overcome in order to continue to get up every day and stay focused and continue to put one foot in front of the other. So when we talk about whys and why your why needs to be stronger than the next guy's, it can't be about money, because money is just a shallow reason why. That said, this is where we get into let's be realistic. Let's not BS anybody. You get into a for-profit business for profit. And there has to be a certain amount of monetary motivation in there, because the reality is the deck is stacked against you inside of business. There are 1,001 ways to fail in business, and it's a pain in the ass to actually run a business, develop systems, scale a business, manage people. Like, there's a lot of ways to fail, there's a lot of ways to get discouraged, and there is a ton of problems that get created on a daily basis. So if there's not an actual search for a monetary reward at the end of it, I mean, even your strongest why can be like, it's just not worth it, because if there's not going to be a monetary reward for having to endure all of this pain, well, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you still have to be able to pay the bills, and you are the last person to get paid. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I've read some books where they'll tell you, like, you should be the first person to get paid, and how you set it up and in your reading and research. But at the end of the day, like, you can't take care of yourself. You can't take care of the business if you're not taking care of the people that are taking care of the business. So at the end of it all, you're still the last person to get paid, because pay yourself and don't pay your employees, business isn't going to be taken care of. Pay yourself and don't pay the government, they're going to shut your business down. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're still the last person to get paid. And when you can sit there and do the numbers and realize what you're paying people per hour, well, there's always a good quantitation and representation about what your time is worth, and everybody has to decide what their time is worth. Over time, like in the early stages, my time wasn't even worth minimum wage. And then by the time my time got to be worth minimum wage, I'm realizing, okay, I'm taking steps forward where at least my time is becoming more valuable. As I was working on the business, then I get to the point of realizing just how valuable my time is, because I actually care about it more than everybody else. I'll put more effort into it. I'll put more thought into the development process, where I've gotten to the point now where there are certain things that I just will not do because it's not worth my time, and it's easier to pay somebody else a lesser wage to do it. And I mean, when some people will be like, oh, lesser wage. Well, no, at this point, I mean, I consider my time worth hundreds of dollars an hour. So it is not hard to start looking at different pieces of the business and sitting there legitimately saying, like, it's worth paying somebody $10 an hour, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $25 an hour to do these things, because my time is worth more. But the point being, I don't want to shy away from the fact that in business, it is very much monetarily motivated. I mean, I left Chrysler for freedom. Well, if you don't have a certain amount of money in the bank, it doesn't matter how much free time you have. You don't have any money to do anything. So I'm just trying to keep it real. Like, there does have to be a focus on money. And more specifically, that money is represented in numbers on spreadsheets and in accounting software. And the details, the truth, are in those numbers. You can manipulate numbers to make them lie, but if you're being honest with yourself, and you really should, when you are doing your business, they're going to generate real numbers. And those real numbers are going to tell you where your successes and your failures are. Those real numbers are going to tell you where your problems are and what you need to be working on. And inevitably, if you start doing it for a long enough time and consistently, well, then you're going to get to that bottom line number. And then once you realize you're getting money to the bottom line, well, then you're going to be wanting to learn, develop, and grow and find ways to get more money to the bottom line. But at the end of it all, it's like your why, whether it be your personal why or whether it be your money, that they are four separate things. Your personal why is to keep you going in the difficult times. It's to motivate you and give you the discipline to keep getting up every day, to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And if you keep doing that over a consistent amount of time, over a long duration of time, you will get those profits that you are looking for to the bottom line, and you will start to be able to enjoy that freedom. And the misnomer of what I'm getting at is that, like, I had no money to the bottom line for the first 10 years. And then when I was watching Shark Tank and I saw Damon John talk about FUBU and how he didn't make any money for the first 11 years, and the dude is wildly successful, because at the point I was like, man, am I really doing something wrong? And when I heard him and his story, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not doing it that wrong. Now I realized you go back through that journey, and what took me 10 years, I could have been able to do in 2.5 to 5 years, but it took me, I was in my younger years where I still thought I could do it myself without seeking help and seeking coaching and guidance. So I did it myself. And upon looking back, I'm like, there was totally a right way to do this that I could have accomplished in 3 to 5 years, what it took me 10 years to accomplish, to lay the foundation to actually start growing. But that's part of that entrepreneurial journey. That's part of the process you go through. That's part of the definition of insanity, of beating your head against the wall, expecting a different result. And no, I'm just here to tell you, it doesn't happen. You cannot beat your head against the wall repeatedly doing the exact same thing and have any right to expect a different result. It's just something has to change. Change is inevitable. Accept that above all else, because if you're on the forefront of change, you have the ability to actually mold it and have a say in it. Resist change, and you're just likely not going to like the way things that changed, because you didn't bother to embrace it and try and put your opinion and your perspective into it to see that it had an effect where your input was actually valued, because you didn't appreciate the change, so your input couldn't be valued. Change is inevitable. But the point being, when it comes to your why, it does have to be stronger, because life is unfair. That's not a reason to live it. And everything is in perspective, and your why is going to give you your perspective. And when people inevitably, when you need help, people are going to be willing to help, but they're really going to be curious of your why. They're going to want to know what kind of grit you have, what kind of fortitude you have, what kind of staying power you have. And if it's only about money, then they're going to be looking at you with a certain amount of wisdom and experience. And no, that's not a strong enough why. And you just don't have what it takes to endure over time. And I mean, I'm 47, that there are, I saw one guy online that I was impressed. I mean, this kid picked up all the right things and started his journey at 17. And by 21, he had truly experienced a fair amount of success. It still took him 4 years of going through and developing with the right mindset to actually achieve that level of success. So it really depends on what opportunities you pick up, as opposed and what your mindset is, that'll determine just that length of that process you go through to actually get to the other side. But again, I could tell by his story that it was not monetarily, that the money was not the why for him. His own personal growth and development was the why for him, and it just paid off for him. So when we get into it, the bigger issue is I was trying to talk to people about why you should be introspective. And when you do something, you should find a stronger why than money. But pursuing money is not a bad thing. It's pursuing money because money is a tool that feeds to getting you the other things that you want in life, to be able to live the life that you want to live. But in business, in life, it is a battle. You are in a fight, whether you want to look at it under that analogy or not. And your reason to keep coming, your reason to get up and fight had better be stronger than just money, because money is a pretty shallow reason to think that you are going to have the discipline and the motivation to keep coming day in and day out and year in and year out. So get a little bit introspective and find your why. And I shared my why because I want you to know just how powerful some of the whys are that are out there. And I'm gonna be honest with you. If your why is just money, like, you might not be right for entrepreneurship, because I'm telling you, it's a battle and there are stronger whys out there. And when you get into the ring and it comes blow to blow, who do you think is going to keep coming? The guy that his why is based on the loss of his son, or the guy that's just about money and trying to get rich? I think you get my point. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Find your why, know your why, get a little bit introspective. And if any of this resonated or made sense, please rate the show. And if you know somebody that needs to hear this, please share the show. So, all right, until next time, have a good night.